Let's turn our attention back to hurling. I'm delighted to say David Herity is with us. David, good morning to you. How are you getting on?
Great, and yourself, Ger? How are you?
Yeah, pretty good. The game at the weekend and the build-up, I hadn't a clue what was going to happen, and then 15 minutes in, you're like, whoa, we've seen this movie before. It turns out Kilkenny are right on it, Clare a little bit off it. What was your expectation heading into the game? Were you in any way surprised by how good Kilkenny were / how poor Clare were?
I was surprised how poor Clare was on Saturday. I think if Kilkenny had played the tactics that Clare played with that long ball, I think the pitchforks would have been out. I was very surprised with I knew kind of the 4 weeks coming into an All-Ireland semi-final like that, Brian and the management team, a lot of the players there, the older players that are still there, they'd be able to get that right. You're 4 weeks in, gives everyone a chance to get back into the team, into the 26. And there's a bit of a buzz if you're talking to any of the players. Everyone's excited about it because it's an All-Ireland semi-final, but then everyone's excited because they think they feel they have a chance. When you're in the round robin, even kind of when we were back in 2013 and you go through the back door, it's week on, week off. You get maybe 20 minutes, on a Tuesday night, but that's not really going to be the deciding factor whether you play or not. Brian's made up his mind. Whereas all of a sudden now you have 3 weeks, you have consecutive training sessions together, and you have a great chance. It gives a great buzz. So the fact that I just was very impressed with just the way Kilkenny kind of played. Even from puck outs there, the way that they worked the ball out, they weren't going the usual corner back straight down the line, where you'd probably only win 3 out of 10. They were playing it back inside. Hugh Lawler was getting unusual amount of ball. Paddy Deegan, they just were spraying the ball around. They had Clare all over the place, and Clare couldn't match them in any capacity whatsoever. I felt Kilkenny, to win the game, they had to get 2 goals. I thought Clare would probably run up about 27 points myself, but in the end, they just, those 24 wides just killed them.
Yeah, maybe you have played on teams that have hit those wides, but the deflation that happens when that occurs, particularly in a big match like that, where the crowd are looking at it and you can hear the groans, and a half full stadium like Croker, they kind of have a heightened impact as well. So once that starts to happen, it's very hard for a team to get back into it.
Yeah, I was going to look at the goalkeeper anyway and just see kind of how his reaction is. And I don't think I've ever seen Eoin Murphy as confident and as composed in the game. Even when the balls are going wide, he wasn't shouting at anyone to kind of give an out. And as sometimes the keepers do when so many shots are going off, he was just casually going over, getting the ball. He was taking about 10, maybe 12 seconds on each puck out and just relaxing with the whole thing. And it just kind of showed that they were under absolutely no pressure. He never felt under pressure at any stage in the game. Even the balls that were dropping in around the square, he never felt like he needed to do anything spectacular to try and get the ball back in play. I just thought he's always composed, but just in that game, it kind of, for me, I knew Clare weren't going to make any sort of a comeback, and I just saw how confident he was and how the play was going on.
What happens now in the build-up to the final? Like, it's obviously a shortened build-up to the final. It's 2 weeks. So whatever about the 4 weeks being perfect, is there still room for some people to force their way into the 26? Will training, from a Kilkenny perspective, still be as exciting as it was for the last 3 weeks, 4 weeks?
No, I don't think it is, because 2 weeks, all of a sudden now, in the back of your head, you're kind of thinking, if I get one little knock here, like Conor Fogarty broke his thumb there a few weeks ago, he'll probably look to get back into that 26. But you're probably looking at, they might have had a training session on Monday or a decent recovery session. The media night is Wednesday night. They get their suits Monday night as well, which is always a brilliant training session. Then you get the given out to by Brian kind of to get focused back in again, because there is that giddy mode. But they'll probably get some way of probably 20 minutes on Thursday night, a decent training session on maybe Saturday or Sunday morning, and then that's it. But lads are nervous. Whoever didn't make the 15 is going hell for leather, but whoever's on that 15 is probably 12 of those lads that are guaranteed a start in the final. They're nervous enough because they just don't want to lose out in a place at this stage. But that's it. You're probably looking at, the one thing Brian was always very good at is, if there's a 70-minute game, obviously, when you break it down and cut out the wides, the frees, when you cut out all the stoppages, an inter-county match is anything between 35 and 40 minutes. That's the max that it is. So you're only looking at 17, maybe and a half minutes of a match either side. He'll probably look to have one of those just so that he can actually say to the players, look, we gave you one last chance. But I think he has his mind made up exactly who he wants. I thought it was fascinating who he brought on there the weekend as well. I expected possibly to see Richie Hogan make an entrance, but then I was thinking Kilkenny were too far ahead. He was probably saving that. Now, I don't know whether Richie will come on, but I think he might have. Killian Buckley didn't get any kind of a run there as well. I think there's still room for a few wild cards there from Brian in the final.
Does Brian Cody become a different person in the build-up to an All-Ireland final?
I think he's heightened. Yeah, he's looking around. I would have always kind of compared him to the tower in Lord of the Rings. That eye that's just watching over everything. He's not saying a whole lot, but it's just constantly trying to see, is there any bit of complacency going in anywhere around the field? Yeah, he'll go around to the different players that he wants, anyone that he needs to give a slight bit of a kick to. I know kind of in 2014 I would have played the semi-final against Limerick. Before that, he would have come up to me in Carton House and said, don't think for a second you're not going to be starting that semi-final. And then the semi-final, I suppose there were a few hairy moments, and he came up to me the very next training session, and we spoke about the few hairy moments, and then I kind of confidently said, look, I'll get him right for the final. And he went, oh no, wait a second now. There's two lads going for this position here now, so don't think you have this jersey yet. So straight away, that bit of complacency, he knocked it on the head. The very next training session, that was it. It's all up for grabs. I'm sure he gave that spiel on Monday night that absolutely anyone could start on the 15 and anyone get into 26, and even the 5 that could come on any given day or in the final now, that's completely up for grabs.
Pardon my ignorance, did you start the final?
I didn't start the final, no. He knew in his head. No, that was it.
Jesus, that's harsh.
Yeah, well, that's Brian for you. That's the way he is. I know, like in 11 and 12, I would have started both finals. We won both finals. And the very first training session for the 2013 season, he brought me into the medical room and along with Martin Forty, and just told me change happens. He told me McGarry thought he had longer, and PJ Ryan got in and change happens, and PJ thought he had more years, and you came in and change happens. So that was the very first training session. So I actually didn't cop on what he meant. Obviously, after a few league matches,
you were like, "Oh yeah, that's good. I'm looking forward to this change. What's my part in this?"
Because I remember going down and I was down in Langton's and I was mimicking him and exactly what he says, and so a few of the lads, and they weren't laughing, but I was laughing. But 2 months later, I suppose I wasn't. He knew himself. He knows. He's like he knows that. Look, he gave me a chance. It just so happened I got injured before the final anyway, but I'm sure he is quite ruthless. He knows. I was interested there the last few weeks in the run-up to the Clare game. I asked him how the A versus B games are going on. Just a few of the lads you might see around the place. And they said that there's not too many A versus B games going on. And when that's happening, then, well, there's either two things are happening. He's either trying to keep everyone on their toes, or else he knows the team coming into this match and he doesn't want the B team beating the A team, because then that throws everything up in the air. That has happened a few times down through the years. And then that kind of just, the confidence goes completely in the A team then if you have a B team beating you. So, I'd imagine he'll still keep it fairly mixed for the week ahead, and then try and just, then he'll announce his team. But I'm pretty sure he has a team picked in his head already.
So did that Kilkenny 4-in-a-row team actually lose to the B Kilkenny team?
In 2013 and 2014. 13 when we weren't going well, but in 2014 when there was massive change, I know there was a B team one before we started that Leinster Championship. I was on it, Captain Lester Ryan was on it, Tommy Welch was on it, Taggy was on it, Henry was on it, Michael Rice was on it, Joey Holden would have been on it.
Good team.
That was the B team, and we bet them 2-7 to 9 points. And we were absolutely buzzing after it. The B team were absolutely buzzing. They started texting each other then after the match. Not that to be kind of, it was just kind of a real, sometimes, when you're not in at all. But a victory like that in a B game like that, where you're kind of going, when he sometimes when you are put to the side and you see players put to the side, when they start coming out and they win a game like that, it just gives them fierce adrenaline to kind of go, well, look, things aren't going wrong. maybe it's not all me. You know, it's not in your head. Like, so they're great opportunities. But having said that, it was a pretty impressive B team, all right.
And when that happens, right, is there a meeting afterwards? Does the A team have to come out and talk publicly, or is it all quiet, knuckle down, and make sure that it doesn't happen again?
No, no one says anything like that, because no one ever says it's an A versus B team. But everyone knows it's an A versus B team. But he's not going to come out and go, how do the Bs beat the A? You just know that. How you know it's the A versus B team is he'll go with the team that's the A team, and then Martin Fogarty or whoever it is, Derek Ling, might go with the B team. And
That's a bit obvious, isn't it?
It is, but I suppose he'll argue that, look, I have to go with one of the teams and that's it. And But you know exactly who's played well, who's probably played the league final that year, who might have played the first round. There might have been a bit of a gap there. But again, that panel, a bit like the panel there that's there with Kilkenny at the moment, it's extremely competitive. If you look at the 5 lads that came on the last day, but then I said Killian Buckley didn't come on. I think Conor Fogarty will be back the next day. Richie Hogan, I still think is there. He's apparently he was flying it in training until Mikey Butler was put on him one night, and then that kind of stopped. So you kind of had a feeling then that Mikey was going to be given that job for Tony Kelly there the weekend.
It'd be a hell of a story arc, wouldn't it, if Richie Hogan was to play a part in an All-Ireland final win for Kilkenny this year after what happened in 19?
It would, yeah. Similar enough to Brian's arc, I suppose, as well. That you kind of, I think there's a great quote there from The Dark Knight Rises from Harvey Dent, that you either die a hero or you stay around long enough to become the villain, or else if you stay even longer again, you become the hero again. So you could argue that, which was, in Brian's kind of the way things have gone with Brian and the public and the Kilkenny public. Also, Richie Hogan, I suppose he's been incredible. He was never a villain, but I suppose he fell out of sorts the last couple of years. But he seems to be buzzing. The injuries seem to be, under control at the moment. And it would be incredible that if he did come on, because I know he was disappointed in 2019 when he got the red card. I suppose that kept him on in 2020 then, and he had that wonder goal in the Leinster final. But he still feels himself. He has something else that he can offer his team, and it would be brilliant. I do think that if Kilkenny are under pressure, that he'll come on, and I do think they will be under pressure heading into the last 10 minutes.
I see a lot of people saying, it was all nonsense about Cody, all the people saying that his time was up and all those comparisons, that was all, he's proved them wrong. I mean, maybe he has proved them wrong, but actually what's happened is he has clearly listened to or watched what has gone on in the rest of the game and has completely changed. So this isn't the same Brian Cody as it always was, or certainly his team is not playing the same way. And even within this year, there's been periods where this wasn't working. The style of play and the evolution of the style of play wasn't working, but they've stuck with it as opposed to just raining balls in on TJ Reid, hoping that he's going to bail them out. And so it's not the same Cody, it's a slightly different Cody.
It is the way that they're playing at the moment. And again, a huge credit goes down to Conor Phelan as well, who's the trainer. But a huge amount of credit, even just the backroom team. Again, I only found out there the last day, they have really changed up everything in the backroom team as well, between the opposition analysis as well, nutritionist who I hear is outstanding. You've Mickey Comfort there, who's over the S&C as well. A lot of things, I suppose Mikey Butler's after going from Waterboy to cornerback. They've changed up a massive amount in the backroom team as well, and he has really embraced the whole science side of things, which I never thought he would. Like, even back on performance analysis years ago, the twins we used to have, Louise and Emma Byrne, were there, and we'd come into a management meeting, and he'd click really quickly through all their presentation until he got onto hooks, blocks and tackles, and that was it. So they'd have hours of work and data and reams of it, and then he'd just go straight to the tackles page and just keep hitting that mouse key. So now all of a sudden you have your kind of GPS, you've everything. I suppose you had to go with the times, but I just never thought he would. It's obviously been forced on him, but the way that they played there last Saturday, again, starting off from the pucks, like I mentioned, it wasn't just a simple ball to Hugh Lawler and then that's it. It's just driven left or right. It's given out to Tommy Welch. Tommy Welch is now cutting inside. He's not running down a dark alleyway down the line and then just driving it straight down Owen Cody's throat. he's coming back in field there. We can give the ball to Richie Reid. Like, if you look at the possessions from the likes of even Mikey Butler, who was man marking Tony Kelly, and Hugh Lawler, they had 26 between them, and you're out to Richie Reid, who had 24 possessions. These lads are, they're playing the ball in to a level there, to the clearance zone level there, between the 45 and 65, and then they're able to spray it across the field. They're obviously listening to how the game has to be played, the ball that has to go in, that type of ball that has to go in. Adrian Mullen again out midfield, they're playing the ball through the lines, and then they're giving that low ball inside and giving the inside forwards. It's a brilliant opportunity. Having said that, again, they still have that. They have Wally Welch that's coming on there catching the ball. TJ Reid, who's still phenomenal in the air. They still have these lads if they want to go route one, so they have a nice mix now at the moment.
Galway went route one several times, and obviously the goal comes off it at the start of the second half, but notwithstanding the fact that the goal gives such a surge of adrenaline to Galway, and it gets them back level for the first time in 35 minutes, they kept playing the long ball in, and you'd say for the rest of the game actually Limerick dealt with it relatively well. There were still some opportunities and there were still some points come off it, so I would say Galway and Limerick broke even in the full back line with the long ball, and maybe the stats would prove that actually Limerick ended up winning that. Yes, if Kilkenny were to do that a couple of times and a couple of goals come off it, the importance, the electrifying aspect of that on the team and the crowd probably makes it worthwhile. So you think for the final we should see a mix of the ball going through the lines, as you said, and let those players who are playing really well run the game, but also play the lottery, buy a few tickets.
Yeah, no, they have to, and they need to hit route one ball. Like, obviously it is. It's all about trying to mix the match. Like, if you think back in 2019, the Colin Fennelly goal came off an Owen Murphy long puck. It was one of the longest puckets I've ever seen in Croker. Bounced inside the 20, bounced just outside the 21. And Colin went in and took on the full back and buried it. Like, so they have to go route one. Kilkenny need goals to win this. They're not going to win a point shootout against Limerick. I don't think so. I think this is the one area where Limerick fall down. They've only got 6 goals this year. Kilkenny are up. They're 16 goals so far this year in between the Leinster and the All Ireland series. So they can score goals. They're hungry for it. I think that's what has defined Kilkenny teams down through the years, is the fact that they're able to get goals. The other teams, opposition, I don't think Galway teams are as ruthless. I don't think Limerick certainly weren't. They won an All Ireland a few years ago without scoring a goal. It doesn't seem to be the number one on their priority list. You see Gerard Hegarty created the only chance there last day in the corner. Jack Grealish saved it. So I think they'll still probably knock up about 27 points, but I think Kilkenny will need those 2 goals, and they'll need to go long at times inside to own Cody or Mossy Keown seems to. I know he mightn't be playing the best, but he's still managing to bang in about 5 goals in this year's championship. I think they need to go route one at different points then as well, and try and test out this the full back line.
The concern, I guess, then on that, David, is just that Limerick have shown last year that they have that ability to turn on the goals when it really matters. I don't think they'd scored 3 goals at any point during the championship last season until that final against Cork, that when the occasion is at its biggest, they just have this ability to blow a team away.
Yeah, I'd also just think that Owen Murphy's is in the form of his life. That full back line from Kilkenny is in the form of its life as well. And I just cannot, again, if you look at last year, it was a complete malfunction from Cork in the final, where they just didn't know who was marking who, and they were handing over players. Yeah, I can't see that level of running straight through like what happened there last year. Kyle Hayes just running straight through a Kilkenny defence. The brilliant thing about a Kilkenny defence is that if Kyle Hayes is running through, the full back instantly goes, the cornerback covers in the half back, the left back covers back to the cornerback. Everyone covers back. Like, for years, you listen to the Sunday game and everyone's talking about, they'd highlight maybe Owen Larkin or Michael Fennelly, and they'd go, look at Larks and Michael Fennelly, they're dropping back, and they were trying to claim that this is our tactics. The simple thing was, if the ball goes into the full back line, the half back line straight away, you should know that your heightened expectation there that there's danger on. So you leave your man, which means the midfielder needs to now cover the half back line or the half forward line, and the half forward line have to come out to midfield. So you're just straight away, you're dropping back. That's just what happens. That's work rate for you. And again, if the goal doesn't come off, you can build it through the lines, and the lads will get back up the field. But that happens straight away. If you look at, and not to slag other counties, but I think there's a lot of Mayfain goes on in some of the counties when you're watching them, that if the corner forward is running in, he's after turning the corner back and he's running in, the full back will stay in his man and he'll just go straight in, the corner forward will just go in and bury it. And it's a kind of a case of the full back going, well, my man didn't score. There's a bit of that going on. That's never the case in Kilkenny at all. They'll make sure that if they see danger, some go back, and they'll always trust that another back is back covering their man.
That's really interesting, because you always hear kept the man scoreless, and that's the way that it's become kind of how GA analysis is spoken of, whereas actually did the defence concede is a far more important and relevant question.
If you go straight after, geez, did your man score? Then, that gets inside the fullback's head and going, well, no, he did score, or he didn't score. But then you're like, yeah, but that's because you headed off. And I've seen it, geez, I just see it in a lot of counties. It's the one thing I'd look for there's two things actually I'd look at when a team is behind. First of all, do the forwards start popping balls over the bar? If they're about 8 points behind, there's a few minutes left, they obviously need goals, and you have some lad who starts thinking about their all-star then and starts popping over his point and another point. The free taker comes up and he adds another one to the list there, so it's another one to his name. Or does he actually have a crack at it? Does he actually have a go at it and go, right, a bit like even the Tipperary minor there the weekend, the sub would come on, like, and he lofted a lovely ball in. You can just expect on a different day, and you've seen counties that come in, your man goes for he pretends that he's going for his absolute top corner and hits it over the bar by about a foot, and you're kind of going, you're a bit of a fraud there now. We all kind of know that you just want that point beside your name. But it's a bit then like the backs as well. If you have it in your head that I just don't want my man to score, well then you're not a team player. If that's what's in your head every single day, that my man doesn't score, well then you're not going to do anything. If that's what you gauge your good performance off, you're not going to help your corner back or a half back outside you. You're not going to come in and cover. And again, you'll see it. You see it in the Munster Championship a huge amount there. Just I have in the last few years there where, the likes of, look back at any of those Kyle Hayes, how the hell can he come running in from about 60 yards out or coming in from the sideline and no one hits him at all? It's either two things. It's either poor communication from the goalkeeper, where he's not telling the full back to go and then the cornerback to cover, where he's not giving that double communication, or else you just have very selfish backs. Right.
That is really interesting, because we'll obviously see now this week or in 2 weeks exactly what the Kilkenny response is when Kyle Hayes does come galloping through, because it's sure as night follows day after his performance in the semi-final, they're going to try that early and often. Look, we're nearly out of time, so we might get you on before the final to preview the final in a bit more detail about how the matchups work. But instinctively at the moment, are you seeing a Kilkenny win when you're visualising what happens?
I can't see I think in every aspect Limerick are better, but I cannot see a Kilkenny loss. Right. I just think, like you spoke about that arc that you're talking, I just think it's actually set up for a Kilkenny win.
Right. Well, book it in. We're going to get you on next week again when we have a bit more time to go through exactly how the matchups work, because that was just really fascinating to hear exactly what the aftermath is going to be like and those training sessions as well. David, always great to have you on the show. Thanks a million for making the time for us this morning.
Thanks, Jerry. All the best.